Now, you and I have both been listening to Seth Wickersham's book, It's Better to Be Feared. And it's a fantastic book, and I can highly recommend it. And John and I, for people who haven't read the book, love talking about the book both on and off the podcast. If you've been listening to the podcast for about a month, you know we talk about it a lot. Well, I was listening to one part of the book this weekend, today's Thursday, yesterday, Wednesday, as I was driving in the car. In the life of a podcaster, there is no weekend and weekday. I was driving in the car, I'm listening to the book, and it hit me. There are two reasons it finally crystallized for me why Bill Belichick traded Jimmy Garoppolo to Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers. And I think it's one of the reasons why Tom ultimately wants to play for the 49ers. I think Bill, and I tweeted this, why did Bill trade him to Kyle, to get a bunch of people's theories? Here's my theory, John. These are the two reasons Bill Belichick traded Garoppolo. Number one, he wanted Jimmy to succeed so he could say, I told you so to the Patriots. I found the guy. Number two, because it was Tom's ultimate dream to play for the 49ers. And this was a way to block Tom's ultimate dream to have a little power over Tom until the end. And I think it would be a reason why Tom would want to play for the 49ers, in addition to the natural reasons it's his favorite team. Now, the reason the book made me conclude this is because there's a portion in the book where Seth is writing about drafting Jimmy Garoppolo and Jimmy Garoppolo's development in New England. And what he says is that Belichick knows that with Brady, he got lucky, a 6th-round pick becoming the greatest quarterback of all time. But Garoppolo was part of the plan to replace Tom, and they nailed it. They drafted a really good player. They won with that player. In fact, he was so good that he threatened Tom's standing, and they wanted to get him out of there. And they were forced to trade him. The other thing that crystallized it for me was what he writes about Bill's desire for his legacy in New England is that the Patriots are great after Belichick is gone. And the reason that Bill wants the Patriots to be great after he's gone is because it will reflect positively on what he has built, which he wrote, and this was news to me.
It's like sustainable energy, just keeps on going.
Yeah. It is a reflection of, to me, it's, like a company that continues to thrive after the founder has died and handed it off to his kids, which Bill might, I think, literally hand it off to his kid.
Well, dudes, Khalil Mack took a picture in front of the pyramids in Egypt. Think about the guys that built the pyramids.
Mr. and Mrs. Pyramid.
Still going.
So he said it was very different than Walsh, which I did not know this about Bill Walsh. But what he said is that Walsh wanted the Niners to fail after he left. That Walsh was sick to his stomach when George Seifert took over and took them to a 14-2 record. And it was part of the reason that Walsh came back to coach Stanford.
Wasn't George Seifert his friend?
Got me on that one. I don't know what their relationship was, but maybe he picked him because he thought he wasn't going to be a good head coach and would fail. I don't know. But the fact that Bill's legacy in his mind is the success after he leaves, to me, is part of the reason he would send Jimmy to Kyle. It's a way to say, you know what? I'm going to send him to the place where I think he's going to look the best. I think he's going to thrive for Kyle. And the fact that you made me trade him is going to make you guys look bad. It's going to make me look good when Jimmy goes to Kyle. Like, if he had traded him to the Texans, the chances that people would look at it like, man, Bill nailed that pick would be low. If he traded him to a coach that he didn't think could make the most of Jimmy, but would give him a first-round pick for Jimmy. Because remember, when the trade happened, we were like, God, that's all he got for Jimmy Garoppolo? Couldn't he have gotten more? Why didn't he get more? Well, I think he placed Jimmy with the Niners because he thought Jimmy would look good. It would make him look good. It would make them look bad. I think those are the two reasons he did it. I'm convinced of it after listening to that book. And I think it's part of the reason Tom, if he played for the Niners, would get a little joy out of it. It would twist the knife on Bill.
And the ultimate results were Tom stayed. They won another Super Bowl. Bill and Tom thrived.
Yep.
Jimmy was solid, but Kyle got way more of the credit, so it made Kyle look like more of a genius. Ultimately, the Niners had to draft this player that, hell, Joe Montana doesn't even think is remotely ready, and Jimmy is kind of stuck here unless Tom wants in, and then, like you said, they trade him and get Tom Brady, and Tom Brady ultimately gets his way. The one thing, I think there's a lot of truth to that. He did not, I mean, it's well known he was not going to trade Jimmy to a shitty spot. But when you think, why did he just choose Kyle? He could have chosen, a bunch of probably decent teams would have taken him. And the Niners were terrible at the time, right?
Yep. But they were immediately good when they got him.
Were they like 1-10 or something? They were bad.
They were bad.
They were immediately good. I mean, they won their last 5 games.
Like Bill, if that was Bill's plan, Bill was right.
Yeah, well, Bill knows what he's doing.
Daniel
Walsh
says, "Oh yeah, was this the story that the Browns offered a 1 for Garoppolo?"
Well, yeah, he wouldn't trade him to the Browns. Browns fired. You know, he hated the Browns.
So we already know that then we already believe that his personal feelings affected where he sent Jimmy.
What do you think is more impressive? Belichick just being every time you hear a new story about Belichick, you're like, yeah, he's actually smarter. You think, or that Walsh is just an absolute lunatic?
Well, it's more the Bill stuff's more impressive.
Yeah, not more, but like more just enlightened. That's a crazy story that he wanted them to suck. Their team
crazy.
was stacked.
Sick to his stomach when they went 14-2.
Bill was serious, like anxiety, craziness.
Walsh.
Yeah.
Just disappeared from the team.
Kind of a classic. Like, do you think he was just so smart, couldn't control his thoughts, maybe type thing? Because he clearly was a brilliant, like,
It's an example of having one thing figured out doesn't mean you have other things figured out.
Yeah. Because he figured out football.
Figured out football.
Feels like Belichick's a little more well adapted just to society. Like, can just like do normal things. Has a house in Nantucket. You know, his friend Ernie Adams made him a lot of money in the late 80s. The story has it.
Yeah. I think that when people do similar things, we think they're the same. They're similar people.
What do you think when I heard the story of Ernie Adams making a lot of money on the stock market?
Yeah.
You know, Bill, even being the defensive coordinator for the Giants in the mid 80s, let's say he was making a couple hundred, 150, 180 grand. It's not like he was giving Ernie Adams millions of dollars to invest. But I also thought, like, if he did give Ernie Adams $200,000 to invest, if you turn that $200,000 into several $1 million, like $2 million in 1988 was a shitload of money.
You're asking what would I guess Ernie Adams, because Seth writes in the book that this rumor is Ernie made Bill a bunch of money in the stock market.
In the late 80s, when Ernie got booted out of the Giants, had to get a normal person job, went to Wall Street, dominated, took some of Bill's money, his best friend growing up, and just, obviously Ernie and Bill aren't fucking open books of their life, so no one truly knows, but it's just, there's a rumor out there, and it's kind of believable. What do you think the money that Ernie earned him on the stock market was?
You make some good points. When I was listening to the book, in my head, my assumption was like, he made him like $20 million. Like, he made him FU money.
How would Bill have had that much money to invest?
Yeah, unless Ernie just keeps doing it. Ernie still manages his money on the side.
Because they also have things like Ernie and Tom meeting. If you're Tom, you'd be like, hey, anything good to invest in? Like, I'd be asking Ernie questions about like, hey, you got any stock tips?